Hey everyone, just wanted to hop on here real quick and let you all know of a great event that I'm going to be a part of, as well as many previous guests on this show. So on Sunday, May 29th, I will be participating in the WAP Stripathon. And if you're thinking wet ass pussy, yes and no. It's going to be a charity stripathon happening at the legendary Penthouse Strip Club, and will be benefiting the Wish Drop-In Center, which is a nonprofit organization based in Vancouver that benefits street-based sex trade workers. Tickets are $20 or $30 at the door, and all proceeds, including stage tips, cover charges, all that, everything is going to charity. We hope this event will sell out, so we hope to see you there. So for more information, follow us on Instagram at Stripathon 2022. Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia. I am the host of the show. I have been doing this for, I guess, a few, 2.5 years, 3? I don't know, where are we? 2.5 years or so. And we're on our 4th season, which is like really, really exciting to me. And I'm doing this show because I think it's really important to tell the real experiences and the real stories of sex workers, not just crap that you hear from the media and society and all that jumbled up stuff that, you know, isn't a really accurate depiction. So I like to get people's real voices and have them come on the show because I think it's important to tell things accurately. And also, all my guests are really fucking cool and interesting. So yeah, that's kind of why I've been doing it for so long. I haven't taken a break yet. So that's just a little bit me and the show. It's pretty much all in order to help destigmatize sex work, because as you may or may not have known, especially if you're new here and you're not even in this industry, you're probably like, what is a sex worker? And what do you mean their work is stigmatized? Even as silly as that sounds, it really is. So I think I'm just doing my best in terms of trying to tackle the big beast here. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm also a sex worker myself. So I am a stripper. I'm also a content creator as well. And I was also a former sugar baby many years ago. And I love to talk about the experience. Listen to those on my AMA episodes, because this episode is not about me. This episode is all about our guest today. And I'm so excited to have brought her on because basically I had a fan of Amber's. We are interviewing Amber Stark, by the way. A fan of Amber's. Shout out to Silvio Evangelisto, all the way from Brazil, who emailed me on my personal website, filled in the form, which is what everyone should do, fill in the form, and then was like, hey, is there any way you can get Amber Stark on the show? She's brand new in the industry, and she's redhead, and she's a painter, and she's wonderful, and I would love to like get to know her more. So yeah, this episode, Silvio, this is all for you. I did my best in terms of reaching out to Amber, and then also like your manager, and I was like, hey, I run this show and we would love to have Amber on the show today. So, and now you are here. So Amber Stark, say hello to the audience.
Hi, everybody. I am thrilled to be here.
We're super stoked to have you, and I'm also absolutely thrilled to have you as well, just because we're going to be talking about some really cool things in terms of like what Amber is studying, what she's doing right now, the type of content she loves to create. And of course, we'll be talking about some serious topics because, you know, if you have been a long time listener of the show, it's not just surface level conversation. It's really going to the nitty gritty and also having some deep conversations, which I think are really, really important within the community. And we'll be talking about bisexuality because Amber is bi, and also talking about some pitfalls that come with even within the queer community in terms of bi erasure and also like anti-bi movement or biphobia. So we're going to be tackling a little bit of that today. So little warning here, trigger warning, if that is a trigger for you, feel free to skip this episode. I'm not going to be offended, nor is Amber going to be offended. But if you want to listen in and if you don't know what those terms are, it's all still kind of new to me as well. I've heard of that before, but I wanted to hear it straight from the source too, because Amber has some stories to share with us today. But Yeah, she certainly does. But let's kind of go into everything in terms of like what I think I know of you from the really brief research, aka stalking, that I've been doing online for you the past little bit. Not in a creepy way.
Feel free to stalk me. I don't care.
Well, what I do know from you is that you are a content creator. Your fan Sylvia also mentioned you were a painter. I know that currently you're studying forensic psychology. You have a wonderful dog that you're walking just a few minutes ago. Yeah, and of course, yeah, you're a sex worker as well. So, where do you want to go with this? Like, how do you want to define yourself? If you want to start there, if you want to start at the very beginning, I'm gonna flip it over to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can always just start from the very beginning if anyone wants to, like, is anyone interested in that?
Everyone's always interested, by the way.
Fair enough. I mean, I grew up in, like, a very small town right next to Ohio State. And then I moved to Arizona to study. And now I'm here. And I am just living my best life right now, honestly.
Awesome.
I like it here way better than wherever I grew up. So I like it here a lot. And then I started doing OnlyFans out here, like, I think my freshman year of college.
Wow.
Yeah. And I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't expect to at first.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. And I really enjoyed that. So that's kind of how I started doing sex work.
Okay.
I started doing OnlyFans.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people's entries too, especially if you're kind of brand new to the adult industry too. Like, how did this come up for you? Like, was there a particular need? Was it a curiosity? Like, hey, everyone's doing OnlyFans. It sounds kind of cool. Like, I want to give it a try. Or like, how did you end up there?
It was a little bit of both. It was more just like, well, I mean, extra money's never bad. And I was kind of interested in it. And to be honest, before even like doing porn, I'd only had like 4 or 5 partners total. So it was like, well, some experience can't hurt. So I started doing OnlyFans, and I was not super popular, but I really did enjoy what I did. So it made it totally worth it.
Yeah. And you also mentioned like you had some hesitancies as well in terms of like when you first started. Like, can you share what those were or where those came from, those feelings came from?
It was because I started doing OnlyFans before the pandemic, so a lot of people weren't even like, you know, the only thing they knew about OnlyFans is that Bella Thor did it.
Yeah.
And got really popular off of it.
Yes.
That's a whole other thing.
Yes.
Oh man, don't even get me started on that. But that's really the only thing that people knew, and I kind of was hesitant about it. I had, especially because you have to like pay taxes, and I had to like tell my parents what I did.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, because my dad is like an accountant, and he's like, well, I'm going to do your taxes for you. I was like, okay, God. Fun fact.
Oh my God.
That's what I do. Yeah. It's kind of funny now looking back, but I was like so nervous.
Oh my God.
My parents. Yeah.
Wait, okay. I'm literally dying. Okay, so is that how you like quote unquote came out to your parents as a sex worker?
Yeah, actually.
Holy shit!
I was like, oh God, I can't hide it anymore. So I told them, and my mom was like, good for you. And I was like, what? You don't care? She's like, as long as you're safe about it, I don't care what you do. And she had the same reaction when I told her I did porn like 2 years later. Like, after my first scene with that video girls, I told her, because I was like, well, I may as well be honest here. And she was like, oh, that's new. Are you being safe? I was like, yeah. She's like, okay. And then, you know, we just can't tell my grandparents what I do for work, and that annoys her. But other than that, my parents like are pretty supportive of me, actually.
Wow.
Which I was not really expecting at first, but
no, I don't think anyone really expects that. And I like love hearing stories like this because they're just so rare sometimes. It's like,
yeah, it's very heartwarming.
Very heartwarming, totally. And like, what about your dad's reaction too? Like, is that when you told him is when I got to do my taxes? Like, hey, Dad.
Yeah, my dad kind of had like a more like, are you sure this is a good idea kind of thing? But I think that my mom talked to him and was like, well, you know, sex work is still just work, and, you know, it's something that I'm interested in doing and that I like doing. So my dad, I think, came around.
Wow, that is really, really cool. You have such cool, progressive parents.
Yeah, they're pretty fantastic, actually.
That's awesome. Like, have they ever like asked you any questions, more like personal questions in terms of the work, or it's just like more on the outside, more from a caring aspect of like, are you safe? Are you sure you want to do this? Is that where it
it's
starts
more
and
like
ends?
that. My parents didn't really get super nosy about it. Although at one point when I came home for Christmas, I left some like a naughty Mrs. Claus outfit from my OnlyFans. Like I accidentally left it in the living room because I was taking pictures with the Christmas tree, and my mom found it the next morning. And was like, you left some of your OnlyFans stuff downstairs. And I woke up this morning and saw it. I was like, oh shit, I am so sorry, Mom.
I love that.
She just found it funny and was like, do you want any advice for your OnlyFans? I was like, what advice do you have? She's like, well, I mean, men like this and this and this. I was like, Mom, please. It's fine. You don't need to give me tips for OnlyFans.
I love how your mom was like pitching in. She's like, this might work. And you're like, please, like, I got this.
Yeah, she was like, for Thanksgiving, you could do like a naughty pilgrim. I was like, Mom, I am not doing that. That's weird, first of all. And second of all, I don't want your advice, honestly. I would rather you just be my mom right now.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's kind of funny and like kind of
Yeah.
cool, but also like borderline crossing boundaries.
Yeah, I was like, no. And she hasn't done since, so at least she's respected that. But at first it was just kind of funny. I was like, well, thanks for the advice, but I'm okay.
That's really, really great to hear. Like, do any other family members know, or like close friends know as well, or like?
My roommate definitely knows. He absolutely knows. Every time I have to like make content in my room, I shut the door and I'm like, do not make noise. Do not moan or scream. He's been good about that now. But he used to like do that when I was trying to record stuff for my OnlyFans. I was like, hey, just stop it.
That is
and my
annoying.
sister knows too, and she's pretty great also.
That's awesome. It's so nice to hear like these great pillars of support, because then sometimes people just don't have that, and like it can make sex work very, very isolating, very lonely. So it's great that you have people that you can speak with, and especially like your immediate family and friends. Like that's awesome to hear. I love that.
Yeah, it is. They're great.
I love that. We'll definitely get more into the porn talk in a little bit too, but I also wanted to talk, and I also know that you wanted to talk, because it's not, whenever I do episodes, it's not just about what I want to hear about. I also want to like incorporate what the guest wants to speak about as well. And I know that you're also studying forensic psychology as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and where you want to go with that.
So I didn't even know what forensic psychology was till my AP Psych class in high school. And we talked about it super briefly, like maybe just one class. But I looked into it on my own, and I got really, really into it. Like, I watched a lot of documentaries about like serial killers and like all these, and like white collar criminals too.
Yes.
And I was super interested in like the psychology behind crime and why people do the things that they do, and why certain people do it and other people don't, and the effects it has. So I found a program. It happened to be far away from where I live.
Oh no!
But I found a program out here, and I was accepted. And I was like, okay, well, I got all my general ed classes done. I think last year is when I finished it.
Yay!
So I am finally getting into the meat of my degree, which is great.
Yes.
With my degree, I'd like to be a victim's advocate and a criminal filer.
Ooh.
So I'd like to actually help people who have been affected by crime rather than just studying why people do it. Like, I'd actually like to make a difference with it.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's amazing. So cool. Seriously, that's amazing. Like, as a person that I studied criminology back in the day, I did not go into forensics, unfortunately, but I ended up working with, for a really brief amount of time, working with a forensic consultant. So this particular employer, and this is kind of recent, not recent, a couple of years now, but used to work with police. I know a lot of people do not support the police, which is fine. We're going to try to keep politics out of this conversation. But he kind of looked at like the way that bullets enter people's bodies in terms of like homicide and figuring out like, okay, getting science to kind of explain what exactly happened. Because of course with like people lying and people like trying to say like, oh, this didn't happen. But if you study the way, and you study forensics, you can actually see like with blood splatter, what way the bullet entered the body, where that's going, and like what the real explanation of the crime is. So I find this to be truly fascinating, and I'm so excited for you to embark on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am very excited. I love what I study. I have like 7 or 8 books just on case studies. Like,
wow.
from former FBI profilers. I collect them. It's so, I don't know if it's weird or not, but I love reading it. I love reading about it.
No, that's so cool.
If I'm ever reading, it's probably just that.
Like, is there any particular reason why you want to go into forensics, or is it because, you know, a lot of the maybe shows that you've seen before, or just general interest in this type of program, or like wanting to help people?
No, it's probably because of the shows. I found that there are not very many like accurate criminal justice shows out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I love Criminal Minds, but I don't think it's like accurate at all.
No.
Compared to, like, what the FBI actually does. And I don't know, I've always just been super interested in like the victim's perspective, because they never really talk about it. They just say, here's what happened to her, and they move on.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been like, well, why did they do that? Because they need like a lot more help than they're getting.
Yeah.
Especially like now, there's like no support for victims in the system. Sorry, there's things happening outside my apartment right now.
That's okay.
And that's kind of why I wanted to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Although, going back to forensics, I did take a forensics lab, and that's how I met my roommate, who also happens to be one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably one of the most fun classes I've ever taken. Like, forensics is so fun.
Yeah.
If there was no psychology, that's what I would do.
Gotcha. Well, what's like the fun part about it? Like, if you were, because I know that obviously maybe it's like not a lot of people that are in forensics listening to the show, but like in case people are studying right now, like what's the appeal for you?
For me personally, I really just like the studying, like getting really deep into someone's personal, like psychological profile.
Mm-hmm.
I love knowing what makes somebody tick and like why they do things and how it affects people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just super interesting to study, and I like categorizing like different like criminals and things like that, and putting them into like, here are their traits and here are somebody else's traits. And that's kind of what behavioral profiling is on a very basic level anyway.
Yeah.
So,
very simplistic, but yes.
Yeah, my brain just likes it. It like scratches an itch in me.
I love that, because I could really hear like the passion in your voice when you're speaking about this too. It's like nerd level, which like I understand where you're coming from too, because I was like, oh my god, this reminds me of back in my undergrad days. Like,
yeah. I'm like, oh god, I sound like such a nerd, but I don't even care.
No, I think it's great. I think, like, you know, people need to take more pride in like the fact that they're students. Because I remember, like, when I was still in my undergrad, I just really wanted to be done and have it to be over. And now I'm like 32 and like looking back and like guest lecturing at my old university and stuff. I'm just like, oh, I miss like when I was a student, and I wish like we had classes like this on sex work back in the day.
Yeah. But I'm probably going to miss that too. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, totally. I mean, going back to the conversation in terms of like, well, we're going to try to loop your role as a student and also like your role as an adult content creator. Has there been like any way in terms of like, how has the adult industry enabled you to succeed as a student? So that can be anything with like a flexible schedule, or just like, you know, getting enough money that you don't have to work a billion hours at like a retail job, stuff like that.
Yeah. I worked retail for a good amount of time before I started doing porn. And I was just miserable. Like, my grades dropped. I was always tired because the hours we were pretty understaffed. Because I made paint for houses, and, you know, nobody wants to do that. So I was pretty upset, and I just was tired all the time. And, you know, doing porn has helped me not only have, like, a flexible schedule like that, it's also been, like, enabled me to get more sleep, because, you know, you're not always doing porn, and the hours aren't, like, strict like that. And it's also obviously helped me pay off my tuition, because my scholarships are only taking me so far.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And, like, school tuition is hella expensive, and I want to say it's probably even more now than when I was still in school, which was like a decade ago. So
yeah, it's pretty rough right now, especially since I'm out of state. It's like, well, now you get to pay $10,000 extra a year because you're out of state. And I'm like, well, shit, okay.
Yeah, because then you moved, right? So, oh my god, I forgot about that.
The program is great, and I don't regret it at all. It's just really pricey. And that's kind of why, it's one of the reasons I like doing porn. It just really helped me pay off like a bunch of my student loans already.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's very common for a lot of students to have a huge debt after they graduate. And then I know people well into their 30s that are still paying those student loans off. And it's like a big sum to carry. And of course, that only increases with interest too.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, well, porn has just been really great for that. So I never ever regret it.
Totally. So. Did you start going to school before you started porn, or is it the other way around, or like when did that happen?
3 months after my freshman year of college, that's when I started doing OnlyFans, and then I started doing porn 6 months ago now. So, but there was a little bit of a period of time where I only did OnlyFans for a very long time. And if you scroll back far enough on my Twitter, you can see where I'm desperately trying to put myself out there, like, oh my God, please just notice me compared to all these other people out there. So it's very hard to get people's attention when you're just doing OnlyFans. So help me with that.
Yeah, like talk about that too, because like a lot of people have struggled with getting their OnlyFans up off the ground, and that is always the hardest part with anything, with OnlyFans, or you're starting a ManyVids channel, or like even just like starting a new Instagram account after like you've gotten suspended or deleted.
Oh my God, yeah.
Talk about that.
There's so much competition now is the thing, and everybody's trying to do it, and that's great. It's just hard to get yourself out there and be like something different and get noticed by people who just happen to be scrolling on Twitter, who just are like horny or whatever. So you're just like desperately like, oh my God, please notice me. And sometimes it's hard not to compare yourself to other girls out there. Like, even if you're like the most confident, secure person in the world, your brain is still sometimes mean to you, and it's like, oh well, she's doing way better, so this must mean that she's prettier or whatever. And it's stupid, but it's just the way it is sometimes.
Oh yeah, I hear you with that, because like everyone has their own hustle, and like I hate competitiveness within our community, and and just like comparing yourself with others, because like we're all different, but then it's so natural for us to go into that area.
It's literally just only human. Like, there's nothing wrong with you if you do that.
No,
it sucks, and being like overly competitive, like to the point where it hinders you or other people, that's when there's a problem. But just being generally insecure, it's like a human reaction. Like, it's totally normal.
For sure. I forgot, we haven't even talked about your entry into porn, because you're pretty new. Welcome, by the way. How did this happen for you? Did someone notice you on your OnlyFans, or like how did you start in the adult industry?
So I don't care if I tell a story. I am booked with ATMLA, and I think I followed Danny on Twitter, like when I was doing OnlyFans stuff, just out of like pure curiosity.
Yeah.
And, get to know other sex workers and things like that. But he actually DM'd me, and he was like, "Are you interested in doing porn?" I was like, "Maybe." So I was like, "Okay, well," and then I started doing the process because it's always been kind of interesting to me, and I had no I wasn't against that in any way. And I was like, well, I'll try pretty much almost anything once. So he scouted me, and I went through the process of getting everything together. And then I did my first scene with Net Video Girls, and I ended up really liking it. So and that's kind of how I got started. And it's been just an amazing journey from there.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. That's huge. That's so exciting.
Yeah. I was like, this man noticed me. This really cool agent from Los Angeles noticed me. It was so exciting. I was freaking out when he messaged me, but Danny's just such a cool guy. So
yeah, I messaged him because then I was like, hey, I need to get Amber on the show. Can you help me out? Super nice guy.
Oh my God, he's just the sweetest man ever.
Super nice. Shout out, Danny. Hello.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Danny. In a good way.
All good things. Yeah, all good things.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's great.
That's awesome. So that's really cool. So he reached out to you, and what was going on through your head? Obviously, a slew of excitement. I know a lot of people that have gotten scouted before were kind of weary about oh, is this a scam? But you already followed him, so knew that he was the real deal.
Yeah, and there are a lot of girls from Phoenix who do porn, especially with ATMLA. A shocking amount of people live here. So I kind of, if it was some random guy with no followers and if he wasn't like followed by these agencies who are verified, I'd probably be like, well, no, that's probably a scam. But he is the real deal, and we video chatted a bunch, and he assured me that if I ever felt uncomfortable or unsafe, that I could always just opt out and never talk to him again. So
yeah,
that really also helped settle my nerves.
Totally. Yeah, of course, because it is kind of nerve-wracking too, because like, had you even considered porn before this at all, or you were just like, I'm good with my OnlyFans?
I did consider porn a little bit. It was just hard because I was like, well, what are my parents going to say? But apparently I had nothing to worry about there. I was like, what are my parents going to say? And do I have to use my real name? Obviously not. I learned that I do not have to do that.
Yes.
And I don't have to share any information that I don't want to. And I don't have to do anything that I want to, which is really nice. It's really nice to be in control that way.
Yeah.
So I had considered it, but I never took any active steps to get there until Dan reached out to me.
And then that was the point you took it seriously and like, okay, what are the next steps? What happens after this? What did happen after that? So what's what happens after you say yes? Do they book you in for a shoot? Is there like a bunch of paperwork that you have to go through, or how does that work?
There's a ton of paperwork. They make sure that you're up for it, and they assure you that you can stop anytime that you want. Especially with these companies that work with newer girls exclusively, they're very gentle with you, and honestly, people in porn are some of the funniest people I've ever met. And they just are super great and super nice. But after my Video Girl shoot, I actually did not shoot anything for a while because of school, actually.
Oh.
So that's kind of where, because a lot of companies like to work in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
And that's when I have classes. So I was like, well, there are any companies that want to work with me on a Saturday, Sunday. So it's kind of hard at first.
Yeah, I did want to ask about that too. When we were talking about school, because we talked about how porn has enabled you to, pay off school and have a great flexible schedule, get more rest, all that we've established before. But I also want to talk about the challenges when you are a student and doing porn, and this is definitely one of them.
Okay, so I think the biggest challenge for doing porn and being a student is just a lot of companies, like I said, they only want to shoot in the middle of the week. And as a student, when you have classes in the middle of the week, it can kind of make it difficult, especially since most companies just didn't even know I existed yet.
Right.
So there was a pretty long dry spell for me where I just wasn't filming anything, and it was kind of almost a little disheartening because I was trying very hard to get work and to be noticed. And, it can be kind of, it can kind of hurt a little bit when you just are trying really hard and nothing's really happening, no matter what you do. So it just took a long time, a couple months before I actually got, some traction.
Yeah. Were you at all worried that you're okay, I shot this one thing, is that not going to go anywhere? Or what's going to happen after this? You're just kind of, stuck in limbo. Did you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I was a little worried.
Yeah.
Although because the first Net Video Girls video I did actually got a couple million views on Pornhub, which was, fucking insane.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, this has to help me a little bit, right? And I think it did eventually, because then Wanks VR noticed me, and they are just a fantastic, amazing company. And, I finally got on my feet again after that.
Yeah, but of course, I'm sure you were probably a little bit worried too at that point, just not getting anything. And I wonder if I don't know if any porn companies or production companies are like this, but if a person's not available to shoot all the time, will they lose interest in that person at some point? Or I'm not even sure how that works.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of scary.
It is scary.
I have no idea. I'm just because there are most companies I have some pretty good availability with now, especially since this semester my classes are actually all online.
Oh,
so I'm
sweet.
just well, that helps a lot. But I have no idea. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's okay.
I don't think I can speak on that.
No, that's okay. Are you flying? Are you now having to fly out to and from Phoenix to LA pretty often now that your schedule's a bit more flexible, or is it all over?
I fly sometimes. Usually I drive though. I drive to LA just because I hate paying for Ubers and I hate being kind of restricted. And I don't really know anybody out there well enough to stay with them yet.
Yeah.
So hotels can be kind of pricey if you're also flying, booking a whole flight round trip. And my car is a Honda Accord, so it's kind of like a tank when it comes to doing long distance travel like that.
Totally.
So I just kind of drive and put on like a very long playlist, and it gets me through it.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're within driving distance. So, and that's, I mean, from Phoenix to LA is a nice drive too. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's very pretty, honestly. I like don't mind doing it. The only time I mind doing it is like right after a shoot, and I have to like drive home like at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like I'm just so tired. So sometimes I'll book like an extra night if that happens, but you know, usually I'm okay.
Yeah,
I just get an energy drink from a gas station, and I'm good to go.
Like the Monster that you're drinking now, that huge thing.
Yeah, I was like, I need caffeine all the time, at least once a day.
At least once a day. There we go. I mean, well, one, you're a student. One, you're working in porn, which has some very, very long hours as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to speak about that?
It really just depends on the shoot. Like, if you're just doing like a boy-girl type, and if there's not like a whole lot of dialogue, you can be in and out like 4 or 5 hours. But if there's like a whole lot of dialogue and camera, like, you don't know, but it takes like 3 hours just to shoot like the dialogue of porn, and just for like a 5-minute clip, and it's insane.
Oh my god!
I did not expect there to be like a movie to like feel to this, you know. And VR scenes take a really long time. But, you know, I don't mind it because usually after, like, those types of scenes, I give myself at least, like, 1 or 2 days off.
Yeah.
That's why I like doing porn, is because you can kind of also control your schedule in a way that you can't really with other jobs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you need to have, like, a good amount of flexibility for this line of work, but also the flexibility on our end as well, so we can actually rest and relax and enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
And
you don't want to burn out, especially, like, doing, like, sex work. Like, and if your performance is, like, very clearly, like, if you're tired as hell in a shoot, it's kind of show. So,
how do you
want to take care of yourself?
How do you prevent burnout for yourself?
Like I said, I just give myself a couple of days off at least in between shoots. Especially like right now, I actually don't have anything planned for the month of May, like at all. I'm leaving the entire month like completely free.
Wow.
Because not only is my sister graduating from high school, so I'm gonna fly back for like 3 weeks.
Oh.
So like good for her. But I am also just, you know, you don't want to burn out at all, and you want to take care of your like body physically as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because doing like some of those positions for porn, like I'm less like I need a chiropractor. There are certain things my body does not like. It's like, oh god, don't bend this way, please.
Yeah, like the next day your neck is like so stiff. You're like, I can't turn my neck.
I could probably crack my neck right now if I wanted to. You know, I'm just like always a little tense, but I need to see like a chiropractor. A lot of girls in porn see a chiropractor.
Oh yeah.
I think I need to get on that train.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. For the type of porn that you shoot, is it a mix of everything, or is it? Or do you have a say?
It's a pretty good mix of everything.
Yeah.
Like I don't just do like one type.
That's good. That's good, because then sometimes people can be typecast, even in porn, right? And then they're just stuck in that bubble. But
it's good. Yeah, I don't like limiting myself like that. But everybody's different.
Totally. Well, in terms of having more variety, I wanted to kind of shift the conversation over to your sexuality, which is bisexuality. If you wanted to speak a little bit about this, like when did you realize that you were bi? If you can remember.
I actually realized it in high school.
Oh,
I realized I was bi in high school because I had like the biggest crush on one of my best friends in band. I was like, oh my god, I like this girl, and it was kind of weird at first, and I was kind of scared. And same with the porn. When I told my parents, they were like, okay, just be safe, you know. So they did not care that I was bi, which is really great.
Yeah, that is super great. That's so nice. Again, your parents just sound amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
Very supportive. What about like your peers? Were they also in support of this as well? Or like how were their reactions for when you came out? If you can remember.
I can remember my sister because I came out like sophomore year of high school, and she was still pretty young at the time. And I told her that, and she was like, "Does that mean you're gonna marry a girl?" I was like, "I don't know. It's possible." And that's kind of like the only reaction she had. But my friends, I grew up in like a kind of more progressive town, so I already knew a couple people who were like gay or bi. So I told them, and they were like, "Well, we accept you." And I wasn't like I didn't really date a lot in high school, so nobody really like bullied me for it or anything. Everybody in my high school just kind of left each other alone,
That's so nice. What?
Yeah,
What
I
high
was like,
school
I like to
is?
mind my business. They like to do their own thing.
Wow.
I was also in band, which is like a whole community that
Yes.
like inside of the school. So I was pretty well accepted there too, which was very nice.
That is nice. Because then high school can be such a crazy place. Like, such a cruel, cruel place. Because my best friend growing up was bi, actually. And she realized this in elementary school. And I remember,
Oh wow.
yeah, we were just really, really early on, and we were best friends. Still really good friends too to this day. And I remember like when she came out to me, and she's like, "Well, I kind of like this person," and she's like, "And her name has this many letters," and I was just like. And she's this years old. I'm just like, oh, is it this student in my grade? And then she's like, no, you idiot, you.
Oh, that's kind of adorable.
It was really adorable and just like really awesome, and just was like, well, like this is amazing and I love you, but in a different way, like as a friend and stuff. And then and just strengthened their
That was a
friendship.
hard conversation to have.
Yeah, it's definitely took like her a lot of courage to come out like that. And also because I witnessed like a lot of bullying that she went through from her peers within elementary and going through high school. And you know, kids can be so cruel. And you know, the girls on the basketball team, because she's on the basketball team, was like, oh, like didn't want to go in the change room when she was there. And I'm just like, well,
Yikes.
yeah, just like shitty, clicky, weird things like that. I'm wondering if you wanted to open up too in terms of like, have you experienced any animosity? It sounds like you're pretty accepted. And I know we're going to get into this conversation later, but in terms of like even within the queer community, not gaining acceptance from them. It's a huge topic that we're going to dive into detail pretty soon, but I'd love to hear your experience and your stories.
I think the biggest animosity I've ever actually experienced was kind of in the queer community. Just because if you're bi, they are like, well, why are you dating a girl? Does that mean you're lesbian? Or if you're dating a guy, does that mean you're straight now? And it's kind of really annoying. And you know, if you're like, I have a preference for, you know, I date more guys than I do women. Partially just because I think that girls don't really notice me, but I just date more guys than I do women. And you know, having a preference is just like, well, you're not really bi then, and I'm like, I can have a preference and still be bi. Like that doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah. And the fact that other people are trying to explain that to you and they're not,
And they're like, are you bi?
they're not even,
No, then sit down.
yeah, exactly. Like who invited you into this conversation?
Yeah.
That's really frustrating because that's like a whole thing too in terms of like people and the belief that people that think that bisexuality is not a real thing, which I learned that the term for that is like bi erasure or bi invisibility. And taking this from, I think I read it online too, but they were talking about like what that means in case anyone's listening. What does bi invisibility mean? It's basically a tendency to ignore, remove, falsify, or re-explain evidence of bisexuality in history, academia, news media, or primary sources. But yeah, I can't believe that this is a thing that people don't believe it exists. And why is everything has to be in a duality in terms of like it's either you're this, you're lesbian, or you're gay.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah, or you're like, are you straight? Like, no. I don't like being put in a box, and I really don't like, you know, those restrictions. And I just like being who I am. And I usually when that sort of things happen, it's just like people who I didn't ask for opinions from. So I'm just like, well, then I don't really care that much. So usually I'm not bothered by it, but you know, it's such a huge prevalent problem, and it does make me like kind of upset at times. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would definitely understand if you'd be upset about that because people are not validating or people are not believing that this is real, that that you are bisexual, that you don't have to conform to any kind of narrative.
Absolutely not.
Right? Who are they to say that you are or you aren't something?
Yeah. No, I never let anyone tell me what I am or am not. So definitely one of my biggest principles just of how I define myself.
Yeah. Like you mentioned that this is more prevalent like within the queer community itself.
Definitely a little bit, but maybe that's just like on TikTok, which is just not a good space for having actual conversations. So it's just like, well,
oh yeah.
Well, you know, it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm just like very, very feeble. I'm like, definitely not like a place to have that kind of conversation. So
Right. What kind of conversations, or I guess they're not really conversations, but like what are you experiencing right now on TikTok?
more just it's less of what I'm experiencing and more of just like what I'm seeing. Like if I see a girl who's just like,
Mhm.
I love being bi because then I get to have like I get both, and then I'll see a comment and it's just like something very mean and like just invalidating of
Oh.
her sexuality that she said, and I'm just like, well, what the
Mhm.
fuck? Like, get out of here. Honestly, like she did not ask for your opinion. Just either be nice or leave. Like I understand.
Yeah. I know everyone always has to like share their 2 cents, and even if it's like horrible, that's not even like being a productive comment or like contributing in any
No, like
way.
what's the point?
Like
What do you get out of it?
no. And I find that happens a lot on TikTok. Like the times that I have been scrolling through TikTok, I'm seeing an eye roll here. Like
Like, God, get out of here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think there's like a lot of like misinformation that's like being spread on TikTok, or like
absolutely.
just yeah, yeah.
I use it all the time. And if you follow me on Instagram, sometimes I'll even post my stuff on my story. But like
Mhm.
I try not to like actually take it seriously because you just can't. Otherwise you'll go crazy.
You can. And there's like a lot of people that on TikTok that like to spread information, I find.
Yes.
Whether it's good or bad, another eye roll here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like whether or not it's good or bad, like, and even like in terms of like the sex worker community,
Oh yeah.
there has been a lot of information and glamorization that has come with those conversations, and it's great that it's out in the mainstream media, but then I'm not sure if everything is like as we said, super accurate.
No, because I once tried to start like a TikTok like from my stage name and like try to spread promotion for my OnlyFans on there and like make just some fun little videos. And the first video I posted was like questions I get asked as like a new porn star, and it's just like questions like does your family support you? What's your stage name? Blah blah blah. And I just got so many like horrible comments like can't get a real job, daddy doesn't love you. So I was like delete account. Like I couldn't even do it. Like it was just so terrible. I was like, why does the algorithm push my videos to all these terrible people? Like I don't get it.
Right? It's so fucked up. Like, are you seeing that too with like the TikTok content that you consume in terms of like within the queer community and within the bisexuality conversation? Are you seeing similar things as well?
I see similar things, definitely. I don't really post about like being bi that often, and when I do, usually those videos of
Mhm.
mine just never like I get like 3 likes on them maybe. So like nobody really notices me when I post those ones. But I definitely see it, and it
Yeah,
really sucks.
it does really suck. And like, have you had any support around this? Like, do you have anyone that you can talk to, that you can relate to, or like bounce and vent off of? Because sometimes when you're just alone, it's just like I feel like so trapped.
Yeah, no, I definitely have people I can talk to just about like my sexuality and the sex work part. Like my roommate is probably
Mhm.
the person I talk to all the time about these things. Like I go to him with like every problem. It's like, here's this, and then what do you think about this, and vice versa. So it's really nice. And as my sister's gotten older, she and I are like best friends. So I definitely talk to her like all the time about it.
That's amazing. Again, like it's just so important to have some kind of support network around there. Of course, if you can.
Yeah,
Sometimes, yeah, like sometimes within these situations, whether you're in sex work or whether you're in the queer community, sometimes you don't have access to some of that,
yeah, it does suck.
and it can be yeah, it does suck indeed. And like I remember just reading some stats here that I got from the Bisexual Research Center, but I remember reading about, bisexuals face severe health disparities, higher rates of anxiety in terms of like depression, other mood disorders compared to the heterosexual or like lesbian and gay counterparts.
Yeah.
They might have a higher rate of like STI diagnoses, heart disease, cancer risk factors, tobacco use and stuff. So like why do you personally think that this is? Is it because bisexuals are misunderstood?
Yeah, I think that it's just like, not getting the support that they need and like just being very isolated. Like they'll turn to things like tobacco use and like, other things like that. And, I don't know. It's hard because if you're not supporting these people, then obviously then these stats are going to appear. Like if they're not getting the support they need, like as a whole, then
Yeah,
this is kind of bound to happen. And until like
totally.
society changes as a whole, that might not change. Excuse me.
Bless you. I feel, I feel you were holding that sneeze in for like a little
Yeah,
bit.
like I started feeling it like as I was talking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna sneeze. So we're good. We're all good now.
Like, please no.
We're okay. We're okay.
I mean, like going back to like what you were saying, what would you like to see done? Because there is a lack of resources and support networks for bi people that identify as bi. So, what would you like to see personally?
I'd definitely like to see more like support like online for it. I can't like do that overnight, and I can't do it by myself. But
Yeah,
on TikTok, I just I wish there was a way to prevent misinformation being spread like that, and like all this hate that comes out of nowhere. Um,
yeah.
I think that bisexuality erasure is just like it is obviously a huge problem, and there's really not a whole lot that one person can do. All I can do is
Hmm.
hope for the best and just keep doing what I'm doing and trying to support people who are bi who come to me in sex work, and just be like, you're not alone. It's okay. If you've seen like bisexual videos and you realize that's how you're bi, then it's like it can kind of feel a little scary maybe. So it's just you have to keep an open
Hmm.
space for people who want that.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. Like, if you were if someone was asked you for advice in terms of like coming out or like creating safe spaces, what kind of advice would you give them?
For coming out, you just have to find somebody like that you are very comfortable talking. Just even if it's just one person who you're comfortable with, and get it out
Hmm.
there, and be able to say the words out loud. That's like one of the biggest hardest steps to do. Um,
Yeah.
but to create a safe space, obviously, sex work is actually probably one of the safest places that you could say that because everybody in porn is like a little bi. At least in my
Yeah.
experience with people that I met, everybody's a little gay. So that's definitely one of the safest places you could go if you are, experiencing these feelings and want to, to feel reaffirmed in what you're doing and what you're feeling.
Hmm. Yeah. The sex worker community is pretty amazing. Probably the best community I've ever been a part
Oh
of,
yeah,
ever. I'm just continually learning and just being surprised by the moves that people do and the generosity that I've witnessed within this industry. And it's just amazing to be a part of. Amazing,
yeah, everybody's
amazing.
just
So,
really nice, and I kind of love
yeah.
it. And I was like, well, sometimes if I'm sad that I'm not getting the bookings I want, you know, everybody here is just really supportive and just so great, and there's really nothing you can be super upset about, unless there's like the rare like hater that comes in on Twitter and it just invades the space. But you can always remove them and block them. So
I was just going to say block and
yeah,
delete.
literally, like that's all you have to do, and they go away forever.
Exactly. There are a few questions that came in from the audience that I feel like we can probably move over to that section,
Okay.
if that's okay. Yeah. Um, the first one is, what do you like to do in your downtime?
That's a good question. Usually, I like to read those books I mentioned, and I do
Yes.
paint. I've been working with oil
Yes.
paints lately, so my room just kind of smells like a paint shop right now, but in a good way. Um, I love hanging out with my dog, and I like to take her to the dog park all the time, get her socialized, things like that.
Yeah.
And I like to talk to
Yeah.
my sister. I love talking to my sister.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a really, really great relationship with your sister, which is so nice to
Yeah, it
hear.
is. It's great. I love it.
That's awesome. And I know you want to speak about your dog too. And since you've already mentioned her,
Yeah.
tell us about your dog.
She
I'm
is
so
a pit bull German Shepherd, and something else mixed. We don't know what the third thing is. She's something else. Um, Her name is
it's
Fuji, and she
mystery.
is 2 years old, and
Mhm.
she is my baby, and I love her to death.
Oh my god. Have you had her for a long time?
I've had her for about a year and a half now. Like right after I moved into my first apartment, which is the one I'm sitting in right now, I
Yep.
wanted a dog, and I was like, well, me and my roommate went to a bunch of animal shelters, and none seemed like a very good fit. So
Hmm.
I went to Craigslist actually, and I found
Oh, did
Fuji on
you?
there, and someone was like, we just need to give her away because we're moving, and I was like, I'll meet her, and then I fell in love. So now she's my baby, and I love her to death,
Oh.
and she is so spoiled, but I still love her.
Oh. So
Yeah.
sweet. I feel like a lot of us have fur babies. I don't have one yet, but it's on my list. I just want to make sure that I have like the time
Yeah,
commitment
for
and the energy
sure.
commitment to like, yeah, and just be responsible that way first before
Yeah.
I dive in. But yeah, like that's so cute. That's amazing.
Whenever I'm like away shooting, I always talk to my roommate. I'm like, send me pictures of her while I'm filming so I can see her because I miss her to death. Even if it's just for a few days, I always miss her. And
Yeah,
I've been home for like 2 weeks right now, and so she's very much enjoying that, me being here.
that's good. It's a mutual feeling, I'm
Yeah, I hope
sure.
so. I would hope so.
This one pertains to the porn industry. So, as a newcomer to the industry, what are your thoughts on fellow performers losing means to receive income thanks to pressure on banks from anti-porn
Oh,
groups?
that is a good question because
That's such a
yeah,
good
there are a
question.
lot of banks who like really hate OnlyFans, and you can't like make any money off of it. Personally,
Yes.
I am obviously very much against that. Like, I think that's disgusting, and the fact that banks are controlling this legal, safe practice that a lot of people genuinely enjoy doing, and it's not just even for the
Mhm.
money. It's just it just happens to be their source of income. It's just terrible, and I hate seeing it, and luckily I haven't really encountered that yet, but I've definitely heard stories about it, and it's just horrible.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Like, and we have had a few different episodes on that, which you can listen
Mhm.
to mostly in season 3. But especially the episode with Adria Rose, where we talk about banks in particular. I've also talked on the OnlyFans bonus episode that I did as well. So lots and lots of information there if you wanted to hear more about the
Yeah.
topic. But yeah, it's pretty disheartening.
Yeah, it's like
Pretty disheartening.
it's just another way that sex workers are stigmatized, like those comments I
Yes.
got on my TikTok. It's just like that's maybe banks have that opinion. I don't know, but it's disgusting, and I think they should keep their beliefs out of money. It's just
Totally.
gross.
100%. It's people's livelihoods, and, like, why can't we just be treated like everyone
Yeah,
else?
like you don't see that happening for like other jobs. Like it's just ours, and it's
No.
weird and gross. And it's just like if it was prostitution, that's one thing. But if it's OnlyFans, then like why are banks putting holds on my money? And why are these
Mhm.
anti-porn groups coming in when I'm just trying
Yeah.
to live my life and not hurt anybody?
Live my life. Exactly, yeah, like, it's pretty
Oh yeah,
frustrating, and I'm sure we're not gonna hear the end of that because that just seems to be an ongoing issue that just keeps getting worse and worse,
yeah. Unless there's like a
and
rapid, like huge monumental change, I have no idea what's gonna happen, and it's kind of scary, but all we can do is just keep trying and keep reassuring everybody that we are still people and it's how we make our money and we are still
yeah,
good people and we still deserve to have an income no matter how we choose to do it.
exactly. 100%, 100%. This one came from Instagram. So, are sex worker and student different roles? How do these impact your identity?
To me, they're definitely more of a different role because uh, whenever I am doing like my schoolwork, doing sex is like kind of on the like doing sex work is kind of at the back of my mind because I'm trying to focus
Mhm.
on to get my degree. But at the same time, they can kind of coincide because I am in school while doing sex work, and but I don't let these things like define me. They're just part of who I am,
Mhm.
and I think that's the
Mhm.
most important thing is separating, is like is to not let those two things like define me at all.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to let it define you. It's really up to you how you want to
Yeah.
be um, perceived. And some people do let it like I wouldn't say like let them affect you, but it becomes like intertwined with their identity, their
Hmm.
persona, and stuff like that. Like I'm definitely one of those people that is just jumbled up with all of my work and everywhere online,
Yeah,
basically.
no, and I think that's great. I think that everybody's different and you should definitely have like,
Mhm.
these views of yourself. Personally, I just view
Totally.
myself as, I don't even view myself as a sex worker half the time. Maybe it's because I'm still so
Yeah.
new to it and I'm just like, I haven't really gotten into the meat of it yet and I'm still doing other things. Um, but I think that I am just a lot more than only like those two. Like, even if it's just like a
Oh yeah.
student, I'm not that. I'm not just that either. Like, I'm other things.
Yeah. I hear you. Like you don't want to be
No,
labeled, is what I'm hearing.
exactly.
Yeah. I'm the same way too because they hear, "Oh my god, sex worker," and that's the only thing that they
Yeah,
hear.
like, and
And
half
I'm
the
like,
time people are
"Well,
like, does that mean you're a prostitute?" Like, no, sex work is not does not even like cover that at all. So I don't know.
mm, yeah, totally." Um, last question here is, how does your content differ? What is its focus, and how is it different from any and all other choices in porn?
For me, I really like to have like the sweet, shy like approach to all my content. If we're talking about OnlyFans, then I mostly just do solo stuff on there. Partially because
Mm-hmm.
I need a filming buddy, and I haven't found anybody yet near me who wants to do that. So I'm just kind of like, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and hope at some point that changes. Um,
Yeah.
and I also really like to post a bunch of like my modeling stuff because I'm not just a porn star. I also like just doing traditional modeling, and that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't pay very often, but when it does, always a bonus.
Yeah.
If we're talking about porn, then I definitely like to add like a sweet shy type in there, partially because that's just how I am as a person, but also
Yeah.
just because I want to stand out a little bit more, and I think a lot of girls in porn are very bold and confident, which is amazing, but I am just not
Mm-hmm.
quite at that point yet. So that's just kind of how my
Yeah.
content is right now. But that's due to
Yeah.
change. It's subject to change. That might not stay the same
Of
forever.
course. Yeah, exactly. Like you're constantly growing, you're brand new to adult. So this is all new stuff, and you as an artist can change
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
And you could have your own evolution in terms of how you're growing within the industry. So I think that's great that you're just not willing to stay stagnant.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm just like my paintings have grown over the years. Like my very first acrylic paintings that are hanging up in my apartment kind of look like trash compared to like my new ones that I've been working on. So it's like you can physically see the change in that, and you can see that in my sex work as well. Like it's not just a linear thing.
yeah. And I'm really getting that vibe from you too. Like you're just not a person that is linear or stays stagnant.
Hmm.
Like you're all like always constantly progressing is what I'm hearing from this whole entire interview, which has been a complete
Yeah,
pleasure.
same here. Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a way that that's definitely how I would put it.
Yeah, it definitely shows, and I think it's pretty apparent in this interview. So thank you, Amber. But before I let you go, where can the audience find you?
If you're looking to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's just Amber Stark XXX. My OnlyFans is Pastel Artist, which honestly I do kind of need to change because that's like from before I even started doing porn. Like that's not how I go anymore. Um, and I think those are really the only places that you can find me right now. I might start a TikTok again. I don't know if that's something people would like be interested in actually following and bothering to watch. Then I might do it. But I reply if you're looking to actually talk to me the most on OnlyFans. So
There we go. There we go. So feel free to reach out to Amber. Let her know if you want her to start a TikTok
yeah,
again.
I'm just like
She
maybe I don't want any more like if there's gonna be hate comments, I want like support too. So
Yeah,
that yeah.
totally. No one wants
Mhm,
that. Those are unwelcome.
mhm, absolutely.
But thank you so, so much, Amber. This is so, so
Thank
nice.
you.
And it's going to be new. You're so welcome. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, same.
Despite some technical difficulties that no one listening will
Oh yeah.
know. But yeah, there has been some
There's a little
crazy
bit.
technical
It's
difficulties.
okay. We work through it. That's the matter.
We worked through it. And everyone else that's listening at home, it is new episodes every single Sunday. Where is it? On pretty much any single podcast platform, basically. I forgot to shout out my Patreon subscribers, two that are on the top tier. There's 3 tiers, but for the top tier, you get a fan recognition shout out on the show. So Jay Suncern, we have Stefan Chex, Justin Erickson, and Arup Sarkar. Thank you so much for subscribing at that top tier level. And it's brand new episodes every single Sunday. Don't forget to like, rate, share, review on Apple, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and rate 5 stars if you can, if you like the content. And yeah, it's patreon.com/strip by Sia if you want to monetarily support the show, which I always love and appreciate. And get at me on Twitter and Instagram. It's Strip by Sia. And that is it for this week. Thank you so much, Amber, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.